This presentation will explain more of the requirements and restrictions for procuring goods and services using federal funds. However, for more information, applicants should reference the 2 CFR 200, also known as the Uniform Administrative Requirements, Cost Principles, and Audit Requirements for Federal Awards. This is available online by searching for 2 CFR 200. CDFA has also created a Procuring Goods and Services Guidance document with additional detail available via a link in the Supplemental Guidance section of the Grant Proposal Instructions on page 10. Applicants may contract for services that cannot be provided by staff employed by their organization. Generally, these services are for a short-term period and provide a specific and identifiable product or service. If awarded funds, applicants are responsible for ensuring their contractors and/or consultants comply with applicable federal regulations and requirements. Importantly, contracting does not change the applicant's overall responsibility for management of the project. Therefore, the applicant must reserve sufficient rights and control to enable it to fulfill its responsibilities for the project. As a minimum requirement, applicants must establish and follow a documented procurement policy. The policy must conform to applicable federal law and reflect applicable state, local, and tribal laws and regulations. Reference 2 CFR 200.318 for additional information on general procurement standards. When selecting a contractor, applicants must use one of the procurement methods outlined in 2 CFR 200.320. The next few slides will highlight a few of the more common procurement methods, but note that the complete list is found in 2 CFR 200.320. First is procurement by micro-purchase, which is defined as acquisition of supplies or services at or below the micro-purchase threshold, currently $10,000. These may be done without soliciting competitive bids, so long as the applicant believes the cost to be reasonable. Next is procurement by small purchase procedures. This is a relatively simple and informal procurement method, which may be used for securing services, supplies, or other properties that do not cost more than the simplified acquisition threshold, which is currently $250,000. If small purchase procedures are used, price or rate quotations must be obtained from an adequate number of qualified sources. Note that adequate number is not defined, as it depends on what makes sense for each procurement. If the procurement will be for more than the simplified acquisition threshold, then a formal competitive bid process is required. For complete details of the competitive bid process, refer to 2 CFR 200.320 and the Contractual Services Guidance document provided by CDFA. The last procurement method I'll highlight today is procurement by non-competitive proposal, which is also known as single source bidding. This practice is appropriate for only a limited set of circumstances as described in 2 CFR 200.320 subsection F. If awarded funds, applicants that anticipate this procurement method will be necessary should contact their assigned CDFA grant analyst before beginning the process. For any procurements in excess of the simplified acquisition threshold, regardless of the procurement method selected, a cost or price analysis, which includes development of an estimate, is required prior to soliciting bids. There are generally 3 types of fee structures for contractual services: salaries and wages, fees for professional services, and flat rate. For salaries and wages, costs are based on the actual salary or hourly wage for anyone performing work under the contract. The distinction for this fee structure is that in addition to actual salaries, contracts may itemize charges into budget categories for fringe benefits, supplies, travel, other costs, and indirect costs. When using the fees for professional services payment structure, an hourly rate is paid for services provided. This fee structure is common with for-profit organizations such as marketing agencies. The rate does not necessarily reflect the actual salary of the person performing the contracted work and is typically inclusive of salary, fringe benefits, and overhead costs associated with the service provided. Please note that including otherwise unallowable costs within a fee for professional services is prohibited. An example of unallowable costs would be indirect costs above the 8% maximum allowable. When using the flat rate fee structure, a predetermined rate is paid for services provided rather than payment based on hours worked. If selecting a flat rate contractor, the applicant must provide a justification for the flat rate fee and demonstrate that the fee is reasonable and consistent with fees in the marketplace for similar services. And note again that including otherwise unallowable costs within a flat rate fee is prohibited. An example of a contractor that might use a flat rate fee is one with proprietary technology or one that provides a highly specialized service like designing apps. In some cases, prior approval from CDFA is required before selecting a contractor. Some common examples include selecting a contractor by non-competitive proposal, selecting a contractor with salaries and wages or fees for professional services that exceed the General Schedule's Grade 15, Step 10, commonly referred to as the GS-15 Step 10, for the locality in which the work will occur, and selecting a contractor that will utilize a flat rate fee structure. Should you be awarded funds, making changes to contractual services submitted in the grant proposal will also require prior approval. Some examples of this include selecting a contractor not already identified on the project application or in the scope of work, and changes in the fee structure of a previously approved contractor. For example, changing from a flat rate fee structure to a fee for professional services structure. In all cases, contact the assigned CDFA grant analyst for assistance. And finally, some specific documentation is required when using contractual services. Because all applicants that are awarded funds will be audited by CDFA, it is important to maintain a copy of the organization's documented policy and any records that show that terms of the procurement policy were followed and that all costs conform to cost principles. Importantly, please remember that this presentation was just a brief overview of the procedures for using contractual services. For more information, refer to 2 CFR 200.318 through 320 and the contractual services guidance document provided by CDFA. Thank you.